Morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah. It's a nice sunny day, so yeah, it's a good
It
day.
is. You're absolutely right. Nice to see all this Blue Monday allegedly today. What a load of old tosh, eh? No, there's no reason that's not going to be a great day. So, well, look, Michael, welcome to the Business Spotlight. Thanks very much for taking the time to chat with me today. Could we start? Could you tell me a little about yourself, your background, and your business, please?
Yeah, well, my name is Michael Hannaway. I'm a chartered surveyor. Chartered surveying profession has covers many different aspects, but the bit that I'm involved in is mapping and measurement. I'm a land surveyor. And what that means is that we provide mapping, measuring, and modeling services to anyone involved in land, property, and construction. Um, And one of the things that I do like about the work that I do is that no 2 days are the same. Type of work that we carry out is, we do a lot of work for expert witness. We provide expert witness services to solicitors and to the public who may be involved in a land dispute, whether it's over a boundary or an easement or a right of way. And then we also provide 3D modeling and mapping services for architects and engineers who may want to create have a survey done of a site for pre-development purposes, or, for example, virtual tours and walkthroughs, or, even for, a 3D model that could be used within, media, film, TV, and gaming, that type of thing. And we're also working within the heritage sector as well. Last year, we had the opportunity to carry out large scale surveys on a number of castles in the Republic of Ireland, and that was very interesting. So yeah, I've been working as a surveyor for nearly 42 years now. Started in 1984, and one of the things that I can tell you is that the changes in technology and the changes in processes that we have, how we were doing things in 1984 and what we're doing now, chalk and cheese. Things have moved on so quickly, and you can't compare the results and the product, the products that we can and the results that we can produce now to what was actually being done then. I mean, things have just moved on so fantastically fast, and I find it very, very interesting. So it keeps you on your toes.
And what was the spark, Michael, that led you to launch the business?
Well, I always wanted to work for myself. That was always the idea. I never felt that I would be working for somebody else. And what happened was, in 1984, I had just come out of college. I'd studied architecture. And what what happened was I actually was given the opportunity to go to work for a firm of geotechnical engineers. And I was working for them that I was introduced to the word surveying. Um, and I was just fascinated by it. Having worked in architecture previously and gone out, and if you want to measure a site, you're out with a level and maybe a tape, and then we were there using theodolites and lasers and all the rest of it. And I was going, this is fascinating, this is incredible. Something that would take hours previously was being done, in minutes. And I thought, this is definitely going to be the way to go. So I worked there for 6 years, and I came back to Northern Ireland in 1990 and started my business then. And that's what I've been doing ever since. You know, it's funny.
Um,
One of the things that I wanted, I was always fascinated. Initially, I wanted, you either want to be a train driver or want to be a pilot, and I wanted to be a pilot. But the eyesight was never good enough. So yeah, that was my first thing. That first career that I actually was interested in. Always been fascinated by aviation and flying and that type of thing. And I was very lucky because when I was in my 20s and I was in Liverpool, my wife then at that time, she got me flying lessons as a Christmas present, and I had the opportunity to take. So I actually got to go solo just before I came back to Northern Ireland, and then business and family and all the rest of it that took over, and that was the end of that. But anyway,
I
um,
know, well, but surely drones count as being a pilot. That's sort of box half ticked.
well, the one thing about drones is, yeah, it does give you a different perspective on things, because like we fly anywhere between 50 and 120 meters. You're limited to 400 feet by law. And therefore you do get the opportunity to get a bird's eye view of things, and that is interesting. But a lot of the stuff we do with the drones is automated. We pre-program the flight, and then what happens is you upload the flight to the drone, and really what we're doing is we're monitoring the systems just to make sure that the drone doesn't do something funny and doesn't decide to fly away or whatever. So the whole thing is that Yeah, everything is pre-programmed, and because I use drones in work, in that sort of environment, I don't feel the need to take them out and use them in my spare time. It's again, I was interested in computer games when I was younger, and because I use computers so much for work, I have no interest in looking at them in my spare time. So you just get your fill of it, and then that's enough, But yeah, so it was it's an interesting. Uh, as I say, it's just an interesting job. It's very varied, and yeah. But anyway,
And what would you say has been your biggest lesson as a business owner?
that yeah, one of the things is I think is that I have to adapt. Yeah, so Charles Darwin says it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the smartest. It's the ones that are adaptable. That's those are the ones that are going to evolve, and those are the ones that are going to continue. And that's one of the things that I've found is that in my time as running the business, you've got to constantly adapt and and look around you, and see what's happening, and then maybe change your you're not changing what you do, but you're changing maybe your approach to things. Within surveying, within the geomatics profession, if you stand still, you're not standing still, you're going backwards because things are changing so quickly. So therefore you've got to keep moving, and you've got to keep looking and seeing how what new technology is being introduced, what new processes are. Yeah, so that's one of the major things is just adaptability, and constantly being aware of the environment around you, and what's happening in that environment, whether it's the built environment or it's within the business environment. It's just being aware.
And what would you say has been the biggest surprise along your journey with the
The biggest,
Landsurvey Group? Biggest surprise along the way?
yeah, the biggest surprise really has been again how the technology has changed over time, particularly within my profession. One of the things that we do is we can create 3D. It's called remote sensing, and it's basically been able to measure and model something without actually physically touching it. And this comes as a spin-off from the space industry, where organizations such as NASA were able to map the topography of planets from above. So basically you had satellites with high resolution cameras that were taking photographs, and from that they were able to extract information about that planetary body. And that has filtered down into our industry, where we're been able to actually 3D model the environment around us, the built environment around us, without actually physically having to touch it. So we have an instrument here, which is a laser scanner. It's about the size of a coffee cup or a coffee jar. And it sends out 600,000 points a second. It measures 600,000 points a second. And if you put it into an environment, like a room or whatever, this thing will measure and photograph that entire room, in high resolution, a minute and a half, in low resolution, 37 seconds. And that will actually map and measure everything, including people. If you're in the room, it'll model you as well. And so that's been the biggest surprise, just how things have changed, and changed very, very quickly. What we can do now, 10 years ago, we couldn't. And what so it's a bit like Moore's law, with computing, where the amount of computing power doubles every couple of years, and that's what's happening within surveying. The equipment and the instrumentation that we use, if you're there's always going to only be 360 degrees in a circle, and that'll not change. But how we can extract that data from the built environment and the world around us is changing very, very quickly. Whether it's with drones, robotics, artificial intelligence, it's just phenomenal, just what's actually happening. So.
And if you think back, technology has changed immensely over the years. What about people along the way? Who's influenced you from a business perspective along the way on the human front?
There's a number of people have influenced me. There's a guy called Les Hall, who was one of the first real surveyors that I ever met and really, really got to know. He worked with me in the early 1990s. And Les, I remember going into his office at his home, and Les had all these photographs, and there he was standing on top of a mountain with one of the, the helicopter out of MASH, with a gas bubble and this sort of scaffolding at the back. And Les is there, and he's taking photographs, and he's measuring. He's got a theodolite, and he's working away. And he worked for a firm called Huntings, which was basically the surveyors for the British Empire. They worked across Iran, Iraq, Australia. They worked everywhere. And Les had a fascinating life, and again, something that made me enthusiastic about the type of work that I was doing. Obviously not to the same extent as him, but anyway, that was interesting. But in business, I mean, I was involved in computing right at the very, very beginning. I remember doing an A-level in computer studies, and that was in 1978. I had to travel to Portadown to use the computer down there. We were handwriting code and send it in. Some poor person had to put into punch cards, and we'd go in and run these. So Bill Gates, actually from Microsoft, is someone who I often think of, and something that's been attributed to Bill Gates. I don't know if it's actually, whether he said it or not, but it's been attributed to him, is that if you want to solve a problem, you ask the laziest man in the room. And to some extent, although I work hard, I think I'm sort of the laziest man in the room, because I'm always looking for an alternative way of doing things. I don't look at, this is, to get from A to Z, you've got to go through the alphabet. I'm looking, is there a different way of doing things? And I'm always looking around the corner to see how can we improve processes? What can we do to adapt existing technology into the business, and maybe to sort of for a better, more professional service to our clients. So yeah, it's I think Bill Gates is, and because I use the product of his life, the software that we use in everyday work. But yeah, I think I like the idea of trying to find alternative means and alternative ways of doing things. So yeah, I would say him.
Great share. What about if you think now, after all the years in business, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning and drives your passion for business today?
Right. Well, again, just like I was saying earlier, the fact that no 2 days are the same. I think if I was to go to an office and just sit at a desk, and that's what you're doing from 9 to 5, I think that would drive me insane. But because again, we know we're always tackling different problems. You're never looking at the same thing. Even if you're dealing with a boundary dispute, or easements or whatever, you're looking at historical imagery. You could be in Prony going through historical documents to see how land was used in a particular time to support an argument in respect of, where the boundary is, or what the situation was, whether an easement actually existed across land or whatever. So there's that. And then the next day I could be out flying a drone or doing laser scanning of a complex building or structure. So, and again, trying to solve the problems associated with that. So that's one of the things, that the fact that every day is different, and every day presents its own challenges. So yeah, I really like that about it. But also there's the opportunity to travel. I get to see parts of we work across the entirety of the island of Ireland, and also in GB. So yeah, we get the opportunity to travel, and one of the things about it is that if you've got a curious mind, this is a great industry to be in, because you get to see, and if you're nosy, I'm nosy and I have a curious mind. You get to see parts of building structures, places that otherwise would be closed to the public. For example, last year we were working on these medieval castle surveys in County Mayo and also in County Donegal, and we were able to access areas that were closed to the public and only available to members of staff. We got to see the innards of the castles, areas again, that probably very, very few people have been able to access. So yeah, it's yeah, as I say, every day is different. You could be working on one thing one day it's something completely different, and in a completely different space the next day. So it just, I like it. It's exciting, you know.
And in the unlikely event that you were marooned on a desert island and had the choice, you could either read a book or listen to a podcast or both. You know, what would you choose to read or listen to?
There's one book that stands out for me, and it's a book called Longitude by Davis Abel. And it's a story of the Harrison Marine Chronometer, which actually solved one of the biggest scientific problems of the 18th century, which was actually how to calculate the lines of latitude. The lines of longitude. And longitude is a coordinate system on the east-west. So you're actually working at your space on the east-west axis. And what that meant was that basically, without being able to solve the problem of longitude, sailors, once they lost sight of land, were effectively lost. So what the British government did was they actually issued a prize fund of £20,000 for anyone who could solve the problems of longitude. And this book is the story of how John Harrison, he was a self-taught clockmaker. He was actually a carpenter by profession, but he created an accurate timepiece that could be used on board a ship, so that the calculation of longitude could be achieved accurately. So therefore, you could sail from one place to another with safety. And then the problem was that the Marine Board, who actually were looking after the prize fund, decided that they were going to make things difficult for him, and he had to fight the government in order to get the prize money. So that's a book that resonates with me, and it's funny because the one thing about surveying is it's very, very closely related to time and clocks. For whatever reason, this is how it is. The Marine Chronometer allowed the calculation of the position on the east-west axis, solved the problem of longitude. We use GPS receivers in our mobile phones, in our cars, and all the rest of it, and that's all time-based as well. The satellites that are in orbit above us are sending out timestamps. Very accurate timestamps, because there's atomic clocks on board, and that's how we calculate our position on Earth. So time is a constant through surveying. But also a funny thing, in Fools and Horses, the trotters become millionaires because they find a Harrison chronometer in their lock-up garage, and they've always had it there. So it goes to auction and it makes over £1 million. So, but they always had the Harrison chronometer, and yeah.
Is that what it was? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Yeah, and then if you were talking about podcasts, I like the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. I like his interview style, and I also like the range of people he actually gets on the show. But yeah, I would recommend, if you have a curious mind, Longitude is by Davis Abel. It's a very, very good book.
Oh, I love that.
It's not a big thick book. You know what I mean? You can get through it very quick. Yeah.
Brilliant. And what about what would you say? What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your business at the minute?
Yeah, I think I've alluded to that earlier in our chat. It's keeping up to date with all the advances in technology and processes. So yeah, it's learning new workflows, and it's not, you just don't pick up an instrument and actually go out and press a button and suddenly it works. You've got to learn how to use it, learn strengths and weaknesses. Learn the workflow, and then how to extract the actual value and the data from it. I often say that surveying, particularly land surveying, is a very expensive hobby, because the equipment that we use is ridiculously costly. I mean, it really does. It costs, whenever I started out in 1990, I bought a house for 30 odd thousand. But the equipment, the total station that I bought was £9,500. That was the quarter of the cost of a house, So it is an expensive hobby, but it's really keeping up to date with, as I say, all the advances in the technology, whether it's the new equipment, software, or the processes that go with it.
And if you could invite, Michael, any three people to a dinner party, who would they be?
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, there's one person that stands out as an immediate first. It had to be Neil Armstrong. Okay, the first man on the moon. Okay, Apollo 11 commander. I remember as a child in the 1960s, getting up with my mum and dad's permission to be able to watch TV. And I remember, in July in 1969, getting up in the middle of the night and watching, the Eagle, the Apollo lunar lander actually land on the moon, and then Neil Armstrong coming out, and watching grainy black and white TV. Pictures of that, that is one that's standard. So he would have to be on. And as a result of that, actually, I collect some space memorabilia, Apollo memorabilia, and if you're in my office now, I have a signed photograph of the Apollo 11 astronauts above my desk, so yeah, so he would be number one. Number two would be an actor, Tom Hanks. Again, I just think he's a really good actor, a good producer, a good director, and I think he'd be a fascinating person to speak with, because he has done so much work in so many different genres of film, that I think he would be a fascinating person to hear his stories. And again, I remember I suspect he's of a similar age to myself, but certainly his films have been a constant throughout my life, so I would have him. And then just to throw somebody else into the mix would be Vincent van Gogh. Because whenever I go to London for business or SES activities, Parliament Square is just up the street from the National Gallery, and I would always pop in and see the Van Gogh exhibition in the National Gallery. That's my thing to do whenever I go over. So I always go over and I'll look at the sunflowers, I'll look at Starry Night and whatever, and just stand and just take that in. So I was actually in London 2 days ago, and I wanted to go and see the paintings, but there was a Van Gogh exhibition, which actually I didn't realize was on, and it had been completely sold out. And I'd been running for months. And it's funny because it's a testament that there were so many people queuing. It's a testament to this man's art, that who never sold a painting while he was alive, and he died at 37. The people were queuing around the block to be able to go in and see his paintings. And I was actually reading in the Guardian that the National Gallery, in the last week of the exhibition, in order to facilitate those who wanted to see the paintings, actually opened 24 hours. So you could go in, if you had the ticket, you could go in the middle of the night, and those tickets were sold out within 24 hours whenever they were made available. So you can go in at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock in the morning and look at Van Gogh's paintings. So yeah, I think I'd love to have an opportunity to have a chat with him and see.
And if you could go back in time and dish out some advice to your 18-year-old self, Michael, what would that be?
Yeah, yeah. Looking back is 20/20 vision, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, it's something actually that came to me in my 50s, and I would recommend to myself to practice meditation, learn the art of meditation. As I say, I didn't find it until my 50s, but it has given me an ability to look at things in a completely different way and with a different perspective. It's taught me to be responsive and not reactive. And I think it's something that helps guide me through the storms, and what it's made me realize, it's not what happens to you that actually creates the person or creates the situation. It's how you react to it. So one of the things about meditation is that it has taught me to look inside to myself, to quiet my mind, to be aware of my environment, and to live in the presence, and actually be awake. Sometimes what equated to the matrix, do you take the red pill and stay asleep, or do you take the blue pill and be awake? And I think, part of the process of meditation is that you're taking the blue pill and you're you're being awake to the environment and the space around you and the world around you and the people around you. And I think I would recommend that to myself, because I think I did spend a lot of time in my head in my in my 20s and 30s, you know. And it's an opportunity to take a step back and actually smell the flowers.
And what about looking forward, Michael? So let's fast forward 5 years, so 2030. What does your business look like then?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm 62 now. I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes, you know, my contemporaries would say to me, "Well, what are your plans for retirement?" And to be absolutely honest with you, I actually like what I do, and I have no plans to retire. So I'm going to stick at it as long as I can. The nature of the work, you know, keeps me mentally and physically active, and it gives me presents challenges, but challenges in a good way. My daughter Emma, who works in the business with me, she will be chartered by that stage, and we'll be sharing the workload, as we do at the moment. But certainly, you know, I can see her being more involved in the management of the business. And then one of the things that we really want to do is, because we have a presence both here in Northern Ireland and we work across the island of Ireland, we also work in the UK, and we've got a presence in London. But one of the things we want to do is to work more in Europe as well. And also, I think how the business is going to change is that we'll be preparing more work and doing more work for heritage projects, and film, TV, or we will be using augmented reality, virtual reality, that type of thing, and creating 3D environments for film, TV, and gaming. And that's one of the things I really, really want to see us doing. I can see there's a huge amount of work involved in that, and it's going to be exciting and interesting. A lot of people don't realize that within the gaming industry, for example, the environments that you explore are actually often based on real world spaces, and those environments have been created by surveyors who've gone out and scanned that space, so that the gaming people can actually, you know, introduce that as part of the gaming environment. So yeah, I can see us working on that, and I think that would be very interesting. But also Europe as well, because again, one of the things I do like is the opportunity to travel. You know, and a good way to travel is if you're getting paid to do it. You know, so you go somewhere else, stay there for a while, and you get to see somewhere new, experience something different, and I think that would be good. So I can see us being in Europe in 5 years.
And if someone likes what they've heard, Michael, and would like to reach out and get in touch with you or the business, what would be the best way for them to go about that?
Well, just look us up online. If you just Google Landsurveyors, we'll probably turn up and on the first page. The website is www.landsurvey.co.uk for Northern Ireland and the UK, and landsurvey.ie in the Republic of Ireland. There's a full contact page there, so my direct telephone number, my mobile number's there. There's a what do you call it, a form there you can fill in, that'll come straight through to us. The email is easy anyway. My name is mike@landsurvey.co.uk, and also if you look up Michael Hannaway, FRICS, on LinkedIn, my full contact details there, or you can even just send me a message or connect with me there, so that's not a problem.
Superb. Well, look, Michael Hannaway from Landsurvey Group, thanks very much indeed for taking the time. Some great stories accumulated over the years, and look, I wish you every success for the future, Michael. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you.